Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to everybody who is busy joining us for this evening's episode of Conservation Conversations. My name is John Kinghorn, and I'm from BirdLife South Africa, as well as one of the four hosts here at Conservation Conversations. This is our Season 6, Episode 8 of Conservation Conversations. Apologies, just busy dealing with some tech gremlins on my side. Want to know what you think about Conservation Conversations. It's been going on for quite some time now, as you can see, 6 different seasons. And of course, we value your input and your insights. If you've enjoyed an episode of Conservation Conversations, let us know. If you've taken away something, learned something from one of these episodes, share your story with us on any one of our social media platforms, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, or you could even just email us as well. We would value that. And if you do miss an episode of Conservation Conversations, the good news is that you can simply head over to our BirdLife South Africa YouTube channel and simply press the subscribe button. And our incredible Conservation Conversations team ensure that the following morning after an episode, the recording of the episode you may have missed is already uploaded and there to view for everybody. So no need to necessarily watch it live. If you have another commitment, you can always just catch up on it via YouTube. Now, we do this all free of charge, of course. These are readily available for any member of the public and supporter of our organization who may wish to learn more or delve more into the sphere of avian conservation. And so your support, if any, if you feel the overwhelming urge to donate to our Conservation Conversations work, we'd greatly appreciate it. You can do so by scanning this QR code or by heading over to the BirdLife South Africa website and going to the Conservations, BLSA Conversations page and hitting the donate button. Now, we have an exciting learning material launch taking place on the 21st of May at 4 o'clock, where we're going to be launching our Bird of the Year learning materials. It is a very, very exciting year indeed in terms of these learning materials. And if you are an educator or involved in the spheres of education, you will very likely want to attend this launch. That is the 21st of May. Now, our next webinar for May, unfortunately, there won't be one on the 13th of May, everybody. The BirdLife South Africa team is going to be attending our annual staff meeting. So we do ask for forgiveness, but we look forward to joining you on our next one. And of course, stay tuned to your emails for details on when, where, and with whom that will be. Now, on to tonight, the meat and potatoes of tonight's Conservation Conversations episode. And I think it's very, very fantastic. I'm excited about it because I have an opportunity as a host, but more importantly, as a colleague and a team member of the Empowering People program to be hosting this particular episode this evening. And Nandi, our remarkable program leader, and Ntuthuko Mathe, who's joining us as well, our phenomenal team member, are going to be presenting about our Sustainable Livelihoods project and Herding4Health. And this is just absolutely phenomenal. And I really, really am excited to see how you all enjoy this presentation this evening. A brief introduction. Nandi, originally from Southern KwaZulu-Natal, holds a social science degree from UKZN and a project management diploma from Varsity College. She's a qualified environmental management inspector, has over a decade of experience in conservation, focusing on community conservation, protected area management, and environmental education. She currently serves as the Empowering People Program Manager at BirdLife South Africa, where she leads efforts to develop innovative community conservation initiatives. Ntuthuko Mathe, originally from Cozy Bay in northern KwaZulu-Natal, holds a degree in animal science from the University of KwaZulu-Natal with a focus on the coexistence of agriculture and conservation. He has experience as a research consultant for Afrimat Quarry and as an extension officer from the Department of Agriculture, where he developed strong community engagement skills. In 2024, he joined BirdLife South Africa as an Ntsikeni conservation officer, leading the Sustainable Livelihoods Development Project in the Ntsikeni community, using Herding4Health standards. Andy, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you.
Good evening, everybody. and I hope I'm audible. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Welcome. I'm very privileged and honored today to give this talk alongside our Ntsikeni Community Conservation Officer and Ntuthuko Mathe, who will be talking about the work that he's actually implementing in Ntsikeni. And so thank you for joining us, and I hope you learned something new. I have to begin this talk by acknowledging and thanking our very generous sponsors who have allowed us to even do this work, who have supported our vision. And these are just some of the sponsors who have directly contributed to the workings of this project. And there are also many other sponsors to this, individual donations. We appreciate everything. Every rand makes a difference, and your generosity enables us to actualize our vision. I would, of course, be remiss to not mention the actual people who do the work and the many hands that make the light work in the Empowering People Program team. By way of introduction, we have Mrs. Zolega Mkize in the top left corner. Zolega recently started with us in January as the Grasslands Community Conservation Officer based in Wackerstrom. And she was also doing a lot of work with community engagement, particularly schools and environmental education, work focused on Botha's supporting the Botha's Conservation Project. We have next to Zolega is Mr. Dalu Ngobo, who was more of an honorary member of the Empowering People Program, as he's not directly a staff on BirdLife South Africa, but as a contractor, we work with him very closely, and he is based at Ntsikeni Nature Reserve. You'll find out all about what Mr. Ngobo does there. We also have Thandulwazi Ndaba, whom, if any of you have attended our Bird of the Year webinars, you'd know Thandulwazi is our program intern, and she has been supporting all of the aspects involved in Empowering People program. And she's based here in Johannesburg. We also have Ntuthuko Mathe next to Thandulwazi, who will be on this call with me. And he's based in Kokstad. He's currently joining in Kokstad, so please bear with him if the internet is not so good. And then last but certainly not least, we have John Kinghorn, who's our Tourism Project Manager, who also joined us last year. Very delighted to have John as part of the team. And as you can see, he does more than just Tourism Project Manager in the organization. So maybe perhaps for those who are joining for the first time, or for those who are like me, have a very short-term memory and forget, I'm very happy to remind you that BirdLife South Africa's mission and business is all about conserving birds and their habitats through scientifically based programs. And we achieve this in a way that supports equitable use and sustainable use of natural resources by encouraging people to enjoy nature and to realize the value of nature. And just in short, the Empowering People program is not an old program in the organization, but we're also not the youngest program now in the organization. It is a program that really took some shape in 2022, 2021, and we have been growing since. We are one of 7 conservation programs within BirdLife South Africa, and our work focuses on working with people and stakeholders of all ages and origins. We have 3 strategic objectives, and we're going to be talking about one today, which is the Sustainable Livelihoods Project. What is this about, and why are we involved in Sustainable Livelihoods projects if our business is just about conserving birds in their habitat? And so we've got Ntuthuko, who will be telling us about the Ntsikeni Nature Reserve and Community Project. We've got Zolega, who started with the Grassland Conservation Project in the grasslands in Mpumalanga. We've got the Tourism Project, which is really a program where we focus on engaging youth and creating economic opportunities, capacity building opportunities, and also just where we really spread the love for nature and enjoying nature nature. As people who love watching birds, and they are big listers, they can join our South African Listers Club. And for those who want to know, where could I see these birds? What guide could I use when I get there? Where could I stay when I get there? We have our Go Birding platform. These are all tools to enable communities, to enable everybody in South Africa to enjoy birds, in fact. And then lastly, we also focus on environmental education. This is mainly engaging children and scholars and also adults in landowners and the communities that we work with. Okay, so the Sustainable Livelihoods Project, that is what we're here to talk about today. As I mentioned, we have two that we have envisioned, but one that is very exciting and has gotten off the ground is the Ntsikeni Community Conservation Project. And we really ensure that our Sustainable Livelihoods Project are compatible or support rather the Sustainable Development Goals as presented there. It's also a way that we contribute to the conservation of birds in their habitat by working with people, engaging communities. And the work at Ntsikeni is really led by this very elusive species of flufftail, the white-winged flufftail. That's our flagship species in Ntsikeni, and in Mpumalanga, our flagship species is the Botha's lark. And so this is the whole project stems from this. So the need to conserve and to mitigate the threats to these birds as flagship species. How can we work with communities to mitigate those threats? And that's what our project does at Ntsikeni. But maybe before I even hand over to Ntuthuko to tell you what he's doing at Ntsikeni, perhaps for those, if I can appeal for those who have not been to Ntsikeni, it is a wonderland of a birding experience. This is particularly an area located in the southern part of KwaZulu-Natal. It's a protected area, so it's a provincial reserve that's managed by Ezemvelo KZN Wildlife, just under 10,000 hectares, and on the nature reserve, there's an expansive wetland system that's actually Ramsar sites, that is of Ramsar status, and it's one of the largest high elevation wetlands that we have in our country. Of course, it's a crucial node for protected area expansion and a strategic water source. In this area. But perhaps to properly entice you with Ntsikeni, I must also tell you it is home to many, many, many endangered species, many beautiful birds. I mentioned the white-winged flufftail is a flagship, but as you can see, these are some of the species that you will encounter if you ever decide to visit Ntsikeni. And of course, we are motivated to support and to maintain the status of the reserve and outside the reserve, because these species also exist. Some of them are also found outside of the protected area. So you would think, well, it's already a protected area. I mean, it's home to all of these birds. Why do we still need to have a conservation intervention in this area? I've told you about what is inside the 9,500 hectares of proclaimed land or declared land, protected area, which is on the left on this map. What is on the eastern side of this protected area are 32 villages who were there even before the nature reserve was established. And as these 32 villages, they are under two traditional leadership. So two different traditional leaderships. And that is where our interest is as the Sustainable Livelihood Project, to understand how we can mitigate some of the threats that are taking place inside the nature reserve, working with the communities, working with all the 32 villages that surround this nature reserve. And a little bit of advertisement, if I can tell you, it is the work that we're doing is very much worth it. If we can make a difference even in one village, it is all worth it. In as much as it is cumbersome, it is a very monumental task, but it is worth it. And if you ever have a chance to visit Ntsikeni, please come through. This is what you can expect. You can expect to be in wilderness, in nature, in wilderness. It is got beautiful sights, waterfalls, a high altitudinal gradient, it's mountains, it's you can also experience guided bird walks. We have our bird expert specialist bird guide, Dalu, who's based at the reserve. If you ever go there, you'll be welcomed with a very big smile, as you can see, and Dalu will make sure that your stay is hospitable and enjoyable. There are caves in the reserve as well, from with Bushman paintings. And what Dalu does beyond the guiding and looking after the lodge is also support or lend assistance to some of the work that Ezemvelokhe and Wildlife is doing in terms of reserve management, burning fire breaks and fixing roads. And so yeah, but if you need to book Dalu to go do some birding in Ntsikeni, please use that email address. And just know that your visit to Ntsikeni is directly contributing to community conservation because the lodge is owned by the community. And so with all this beautiful landscape, and I had mentioned to you that it is already a protected area, one might ask themselves then, so what is all the fuss about? There is a fuss because we know how strained our government institutions are. And we know that also as authorities or management authorities, there is also so much that you can do. So we saw this as an opportunity to partner with the like-minded organization in supporting some of the excellent work that they already, doing and have started to do. One of the threats that that this reserve faces is the illegal grazing of cattle on the nature reserve. And so working with communities, we had to understand what is the reason for this, what are some of the reasons for this, and how can we try to mitigate this. And I'm very happy to say that's what we're mitigating directly with the program that Ntuthuko is running. But among many other threats, this reserve faces its lack of basic infrastructure, needed to support tourism. If you go there, there's absolutely no reception. So if you really want to be in the wilderness, it's the right place to go. There's no reception. And of course, you have to adjust your expectations also going there. It is a community reserve. There's extensive erosion on the reserve that needs some attention. And I mentioned earlier that, we all understand, those of us that are at least in South Africa understand the strain on government and resources. So, with the very severe understaffing, but the staff that are there, they manage to get so much done. And I think that's why it's very important to acknowledge that and also to support that. But moreover, the biggest challenge is that the communities are not attached to this reserve. They have no connection to this reserve because they don't understand the value, or they haven't yet realized the value of the biodiversity in this reserve. The veld, yes, because they put their cattle and they graze their cattle, but to understand the holistic and the biodiversity value of this reserve, it has been a bit of a gap between that. And that's what we're trying to merge with having Dalu there and having consistent tourism activities that are income generating for the community. Excuse me. So these are all pictures of Ntsikeni, by the way. We thought very hard about how are we going to help the community minimize the illegal grazing of cattle inside the nature reserve. And we landed on a wholesome, sustainable model, which is called the Herding4Health. I'm just going to minimize this. I'm hoping everybody can still see my screen. The Herding4Health model. And what this model is about is really about bringing hope to communities who may feel that, the government has forgotten about them, to bring them hope, to help with the herds, and because we understand how important livestock is to communities and to people. It's their livelihood, and to heal, whether it's healing the rangeland, and to also harvest, so that the communities are reaping something out of this program. And it's a very fun and a very interactive project or model. It's about rangeland restoration. So we figured, together with the community, when we did feasibility assessments to find out why you're grazing in the nature reserve illegally, and what we came to was that the community needed help in managing their own communal rangelands, so that they don't feel the pressure to transgress and put their cattle into the nature reserve. And so in this program, we do a lot of rangeland restoration through instilling proper grazing management techniques. So communities adhere to a grazing plan that is done in a participatory way. So, there's participatory mapping that is done with the community. And then there's also inclusion of historical and indigenous knowledge, because the whole model is premised on replicating some of the things that have worked in the past, and the principles of holistic grazing, where you would have these angulates who'd go through in a time period, go through a certain space in a rangeland and graze it down and move on to other areas. So there's rotational grazing that's being done, and it's all done in an innovative way with no fences, and rather employing people. And so that's where the economic opportunities come in, and people act as fences, and really bringing dignity and more status and importance to herdsmen. It's a job that's looked down upon because you didn't do well in school, you become a herdsman. But it's really a profession that if you're somebody who's very talented and very knowledgeable about livestock, you can seriously thrive in that kind of position. So it's about that. And then there's a lot of animal control, so controlling where the herds are grazing, and ensuring there's rest areas. And then there's also the people engagement part, because, with our history in our country, when you talk of land, there has to be a lot of transparency and a lot of engagements, and so that, people don't feel nervous, like, oh, you came, now you come after 2 months. So we need to keep the conversation going, and to really show that we really care about the status of the livestock, of the community livestock, because it is their livelihood. And then the governance part, which is what has been lacking mostly in communities, setting up structures that enable development, that enable progression, that enable innovative ideas. And so this is what the Herding4Health model is about. And of course, all of this enables the impact, and it's, there's reduced carbon emissions in the environment because you're taking care of your livestock. So it's also premised on the One Health principles, whereas if you feed better, you treat less. And if your rangeland is in good condition, that means your cattle are going to be in good condition. They're going to do well in the auction, and it's less methane emissions into the environment. So it is that holistic project that we're implementing based on these 4 pillars I mentioned, 4 actions, and some of these 4 returns. And how we engage the communities about this, it's actually a business. We're calling it a project here for us. It's a project we're implementing, but we're actually we're rolling out a business to the community where there's tangible returns on investment, and and communities can really grow and prosper. So just moving on, one might ask that, well, this is quite a bit of a stretch, coming from conserving birds. Now we're looking after cattle, but I'm very convinced that if we could show a little faith and show that we are interested in communities' livelihoods beyond our goals of conservation as selves, because we could start the conversation with communities on birds as well. And also by looking after the livestock, this simultaneously also helps the birds, because if the rangeland is good, for livestock, it's generally good for some of the birds that we always see with livestock in the communities. And then this was just to explain how this is a carbon project, because we have partnered with Meat Naturally, who are carbon experts. So they are also assisting us in rolling out this program and ensuring that, we meet the necessary requirements in terms of hectares, and rest areas and areas that, the hectares that have been put up for this project, all the grazing areas, and then accessing that carbon credit money. So that's where the sustainability of this project comes in. In 5 years' time, which it might be 4 years now, since Ntuthuko was here last year, we would ideally love to walk away from this business, and it running itself, particularly through the carbon credits funding, because if they look after their rangeland, they absolutely can access the carbon credits. They can access certain benefits like mobile auctions and all of that. And yeah, this was just to say how poor managed livestock can affect the environment, especially on a large scale. And for most of us who've driven around communities, some of those livestock herds are very poorly managed. And this is what came through when we did feasibility assessments, not only from just what you can see visually, but in terms of diseases, brucellosis, and all kinds of diseases that the communities mentioned to us. And so we hope that with this project, if we can manage the veld very well, we'll get the birds back and the animals, the biodiversity. And it's not only the birds, there'll be many other animals that would, come back and thrive. And it could be a very compatible business for a buffer, for an areas that buffer a nature reserve, a protected area. And I must just mention also in this presentation, as I'm talking today, I was in the reserve 2 weeks back. I was at Ntsikeni. The number of cattle in the reserve has significantly reduced. And this is really thanks to KZN Wildlife's innovative ways of impounding cattle. They've really walked long strides in trying to enforce the law inside the nature reserve. And then, of course, with Ntuthuko working outside the nature reserve and providing alternatives to communities, it seems that our efforts have really had a symbiotic relationship or success in the community. So as I'm about to end, this is just one of my last slides. I just wanted to sort of bring the synergies together with what we're trying to do there. The Herding4Health model enables us to focus on strengthening governance, strengthening, rules and enforcement within the community, by setting up farmers associations, and so ensuring that the chiefs and everybody's involved, setting up, and extension officers, and the farmers associations are the ones that run the program. They are the ones that enforce the rules, and they are the ones that ensure that everybody's adhering to a grazing plan. And excuse me, also by improving the livestock for the community, this will inevitably improve some of the return on investment on their livestock and the business opportunities. And as well as, as people infrastructure, Ntuthuko will talk more about some of the benefits that we roll out in terms of fire management and alien plant eradication, and then lastly, we have this biodiversity that we're supposed to be protecting, and this project being a carbon project and mitigating directly the threats to the white-winged flufftail and other bird species in the nature reserve would hopefully, through this program, we will be able to have a habitat, we'll be able to prevent habitat transformation and try and mitigate, or at least reduce, some of the effects that we can expect from climate change. And that part in the middle is what we are aiming for. We believe that if we can get all of these things mentioned in these three circles correct, we will definitely have a mutualistic coexistence with livestock, people, and biodiversity and nature. We definitely believe that all of these bodies involved here will have a shared value, particularly at least for the land, for the rangelands, and for the biodiversity. And there will be more social cohesion, which is more enabling for development, more enabling for innovative ideas, and more enabling for forward thinking. You know, you cannot do anything much with a divided community. And then, of course, ensuring sustainability. That is our prime focus, because we're not in the business of creating dependency. And so it's just really enabling communities' livelihoods to be sustainable and to be supportive of biodiversity. And in this way, we believe that communities will be resilient. Even when there are some disasters, we believe that it will be mitigated if the community is got social cohesion and they've got shared values of natural resources. So that is the last of my slide, John. I'm going to hand over to Ntuthuko to present. Thank you.
Nandi, thank you so much. And yeah, just everybody, a reminder now that Ntuthuko is going to present. So please, this is by no means the end of the webinar. Ntuthuko, are you there? Can you share your screen?
Yes, John, I'm here. Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. I never thought in my life I would be introduced like this, but let me share. Thank you so much, John. Probably I can share so that everybody can see who they are listening to for a few minutes, because I'm struggling with the reception where I am. I don't know, John, if that's okay with you.
That's perfectly fine, Ntuthuko. I think we can all see your screen now. So yeah, go ahead.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much, John, and thank you so much, Nandi, for this one and present just so everyone see who they listening to. Probably I can stop the video reception, then I can start with the presentation. Yes, thank you so much again, John. As Nandi has alluded to some of the points that we were working on at Ntsikeni Nature Reserve with the Ntsikeni community. I'll start by sharing with everyone that it's empowering custodian of biodiversity stewardship. Probably start by saying, look at the purpose of protected area. The main purpose of protected area is to safeguard the biodiversity risk while simultaneously enhancing the ecosystem services and also improving the quality of life for the community. However, all aware that many of these protected areas need some ethical help to address some of the needs of the surrounding community, which has been so much interesting on my side, because BirdLife has taken the essential step to biodiversity stewardship for the Ntsikeni community in order for them to protect and manage their rangeland or manage their land. And also we all aware that we are facing all over the world, we are facing or experiencing the significant degradation of these precious wasteland, where there is a pressing need for collaboration approach that involve communities in and around the protected areas in order to protect and also use the ecosystem sustainably. And also most of these communal that are surrounded by these wetlands that are surrounded by communal land, most of these communities they tend to operate in an open access grazing system for their livestock, which often lack the effective livestock management practices. And this absence of livestock management allows the livestock to unrestricted access to wetlands, and also it contributes to the creation of this wonderful ecosystem. And that's the purpose. And also, let's look at what does it mean to be a custodian of biodiversity to the Ntsikeni community. This means to them it's taking responsibility to protect and manage their biodiversity in their rangeland, and also looking at it's also to agree to the partnership with different organizations, in this case, BirdLife South Africa, where the community agrees to certain practices that benefit the biodiversity, and also to look at the sustainable use of these ecosystems, the sustainable land use, and also ensuring the biodiversity is not negatively impacted by their activities as a community. And also, most importantly, this project is on a voluntary basis, and the community agrees to volunteer, and also it means that the community is not forced to participate in such project. That's what drives this project. All we do is based on the community participation and also the willing community to participate in the Herding4Health program. And I'll go to my next slide. And Ntsikeni Nature Reserve and the Community Herding4Health program, as Nandi has alluded, it's based on a community-driven livestock management model. This model supports livelihoods of living in and around the protected area while restoring the rangeland, conserving biodiversity through herding and also capacity building, and collective governance. These 4 pillars of Herding4Health, I think Nadia has alluded most of them, but it's all about ensuring the healthy rangeland, the healthy animals for the community, and also driving livelihoods of these communities. And also, we couldn't do this wonderful work at the Ntsikeni community without the partnership, as Nandi has indicated, that we are an implementing partner for the Meet Natural Africa, which is an organization based at Matatiela, who facilitate, or if I can say, who provide services such as feasibility assessment of this project, and also who looks at the project and proposal design and implementation support, training of the trainers and mentorship. That also goes hand in hand with capacity building to these communities, and also monitoring and evaluation of ecosystem and social impact. That's the partnership that we have at the moment with Meet Natural. Yes, and so what we do is based on the, as Nandi has indicated, that we are with the community for a period of years, which is the project progression pyramid. So in this period of 3 years, we have 3 levels, which also determine the first. We've got 3 levels. The first level, we call it a test and trust, where the community mobilize themselves in terms of creating the Farmers Association and also writing down the Farmers Constitution. That's the initial agreement, and also a testing phase for the community, whether they can take on much needed work in terms of rangeland restoration. And also we have level 2. On the level 2, we call it an entry level, where we start working with the community in terms of planned grazing, and also in the fire risk reduction implementation, where we work with the community. So maybe if I can try to elaborate more on level 1. On level 1 is where we look at, we work with the community in terms of them selecting a specific land or specific grazing site, where they agree and sign the RSA to say we'll rest the portion of the grazing land for a period of 6 months. That's only select one a portion of the grazing land that can be rested for a period of 6 months. Then on level 2, it's where we start the rotational grazing, where a community rests probably more than 2 grazing areas in order for them to have the winter food enough for the livestock. And also in level 3 is where we work with the community in terms of combined herding. That's mean the whole village or the whole community agree to advance in technique, where the community agree to head to combine their heads in terms of having more rested area and also having more productive rangelands. That's the 3 levels that we operate in terms of the Herding4Health project. And also we have the annual cycle of activity. So we have periods and timeline where we need to jot it down and say at this period of time, as we all know that we have different seasons, we have grazing seasons in terms of livestock management, we have resting season and winter season. So around June to August, that's where we work with the community in terms of compliance report, where community comply to look after the eco rangers that we assist them in terms of working with them in managing the rangeland. So we look into whether they are able to comply with the agreement that they signed at the beginning of the resting season. And also around June to August, we look at the carbon awareness, where we capacitate the community in terms of understanding what's the carbon credits and what are benefits that they can achieve by resting their area in terms of carbon credits. Around July to September, that's where we initiate the rangeland stewardship agreement. That's where the community, after they have mobilized and created these farmers association, they start we then issue workshops that community are capacitated in terms of understanding what the rangeland stewardship agreement is, and also that's where they start to. In those rangeland stewardship agreement is based on the community coming together and say we will participate in this project and we'll look after the eco rangers that are working with us, and also we'll work with the community in terms of compliance and also respecting the rested area and open grazing areas. That's where around June to September we help the community in terms of grazing plan development, where the community are also are the leaders of this initiative. Community decide which land to rest and which land to graze in that period of time. And around September to November, that's where we start the Eco Rangers training and the field condition assessment, and also that's where we do the mobile wool sharing, because we are aware that's not only the cattle that are within the community, and also we have sheep that also that can be source of income and source of sustainability of this project. Around September to May, that's where we engage in implementing the grazing plan and livestock production. In November to July, that's where we start working with the community in terms of workshops. And in these workshops, that's where we capacitate the community in terms of auction awareness and auction service. The reason why it's around November and December is based on the understanding of a red meat market in those times. And around May to October, that's where we start the fire and land management. So this annual cycle is the activities that are connected per year. And every year, after the first level, community move to a second level. Then from second level, we move to a. Then after that level, that's where we win the community to stand on their own and also to run the business on their own. Then we move on to assist other communities that need such initiatives. So after all have been said, At Ntsikeni Ntsikeni Nature Reserve or the community, the Ntsikeni communities, there are achievements since I've been with BirdLife and since I started working with the community at Ntsikeni and implementing the Herding4Health project. What we have noticed, what I have noticed so far, we have been able to mitigate the impact of livestock grazing within the nature reserve, as Nandi alluded on that point, whether we were able to reduce the numbers of livestock moving from the communal land to nature reserve. This is based on if the communal rangeland are not protected or are not managed properly, communities see a need to move their cattle within the wetland because wetland is protected and there's always fodder for the livestock. So community tend to do that during winter season. So implementing a rangeland restoration project within the communities has mitigated the impact. The community doesn't see the need to move their livestock within to the wetland or the nature reserve. So yeah, that's the major achievement in terms of conservation we have achieved so far, and we also in restored community rangeland, we have seen the return of such amazing majestic birds around the community. Because what we have witnessed when we engage with the community is that most of the rangeland birds were absent within the communal rangeland because of wildfires, degraded lands, lack of food for these majestic birds. And also we have, working with the community and youth, we have reduced the dog hunting within the nature reserve. And also the project aims to assist and capacitate the community in terms of managing the wildfires within the nature reserve. So these are pictures that I was able to take within the community, which is evidence to the achievement of the conservation through the Herding4Health project. The first picture on your left, it's a very, very, very wonderful picture, which is I love the most. This is the heifer with the bold ibis that I took within the restored area within the community. And then also community has, through the engagement with community, have also indicated that it's been years since they've seen the southern ground hornbill within the communal rangeland. And they're also so excited that there's an achievement through this project. There's a return of these majestic birds within the community rangeland. Beyond conservation, we so far, as I joined BirdLife last year in March, so far we have managed to form 4 farmers association. All of those four farmers association have the constitution that governs their work and how they operate. Because all in all, they are a business entity that needs to run in terms of constitution. We have restored, or if I can say, there's more than 14,000 hectares under the Herding4Health project, which is we're working with the community. And also we have created 20 jobs so far within the community, which are 18 eco rangers, 1 eco trainer, and 1 local field officer. The local field officer, we just hired an individual within the community, of which her role will be based on understanding. It will be based on learning development to indicate where we're failing and where we're doing well. That's based on data collection and so forth. And also we have provided, which if you can see the picture below, we have provided cattle market access. On the 14th of April, we hosted the first mobile auction within the community, which was a success, even though there are still challenges, but the community were happy and applauded the initiative to assist them. So the mobile auction much needed initiative within the community because of transport when you're trying to sell your livestock to other auctions which are definitely far away from this community. So bringing a mobile auction within the communities was a big achievement within the project. And also we have community capacity building through workshops and farmers exchange where we exchange knowledge and stuff. And also in fire, we also provided the community as we are approaching the fire season. We provided the 4 Farmers Association with fire management equipment, which is fire beaters and knapsacks. And also we didn't end there. We also capacitate them in terms of teaching the community how to deal with fires. And that's me. And thank you so much for your time and your attention. Maybe I would like to end with a few words to say, let's move away from the outdated approach that we can conserve birds' habitat in the absence of people. I thank you.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you, Ntuthuko. That is quite simply phenomenal. And I see everybody is busy receiving your presentation here with rounds of applause and hearts and many, many, many positive comments coming through here in the chat, as well as some insightful, engaging questions as well. So thank you very much, Ntuthuko. Nandi, I know you are operating in the background, busy answering a whole bunch of these questions that are busy coming through. But perhaps I can just engage with or just showcase some of these questions here quickly so that everybody who perhaps hasn't had sight of them can hear those that have been shared. I was having a look, and one of them, Nandi, which I think would be of interest to quite a lot of people here, is this model that Ntuthuko, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. But the model of engaging communities in an area and how that can benefit conservation. A lot of the time we sit down and we look at the science behind everything. Why is a bird's population why is a bird going extinct? Why is the population plummeting? And we're so fixated on the science about it that we forget the other impacts and influences that will contribute towards a species' success. And on a continent such as Africa, in a country such as South Africa, engagement with communities is so important. And I'm very biased because obviously I'm a team member, part of EPP. But at the end of the day, I think that this is just one of those programs which is what somebody passed the comment. Is this known widely within nature circles here in South Africa and conservation circles? But why is this so important? And I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on it, Nandi and Ntuthuko, in terms of conservation of birds.
Thank you, John, for. I'm happy to go first. Thank you so much for all the wonderful comments in the groups. You guys are making us blush. We really appreciate you just even tuning in and listening. It's very important, community engagement, John, and it takes you growing out of yourself and putting yourself in the position of a community. We are trained conservationists, or by training, whether you're a social scientist or you're a scientist, but sometimes you need to take yourself out of that which you are and be one with that which you want to influence and you want to engage, and then understand the value system and understand how you could be influential in a positive way to the community, also in a way that supports your goals as a conservationist. But it's always looking at what you can do for the community first, and then see how that can also support your goals as a conservationist. That's maybe what I can add to that. Thanks.
Excellent. And Ntuthuko, what could you add to that?
Thank you so much, John. I don't know where to begin. Probably I can share a bit of a story, something that I witnessed when I get to Ntsikeni community. They are a farming community surrounding the nature reserve. So when I get to Ntsikeni last year, probably so around June, I've noticed that people are building houses, and they're not building houses away from the nature reserve, but they're building the house toward the nature reserve. So what I can say, we're dealing with a dilemma of population growth. That's something that we cannot control. So through the engagement, we're teaching the community, and we're working with the community on how can we work together in terms of managing this amazing ecosystem. And also, probably it has to do with how I define leadership. In terms of leadership, I define leadership by saying it's an ability to listen. It's an ability to listen, to understand, not to listen to respond. That's the initial approach that I use when I get to this community, in terms of listening them and also understand where they come from and try to work together in terms of restoring this rangeland around the nature reserve. Thank you so much.
Well done, Ntuthuko, and yeah, I mean, it's incredible. And somebody here, whilst we've been talking about this, Nandi, they've said here that this is so important. And apologies, there's some more comments coming through. Yeah, it's so important to work at this critical and sensitive interface between community needs and conservation needs. This really is multi-dimensional work and cutting edge in its relevance. That was Sarah Shelton. And I agree. And you know, like before we started delving into these questions and comments, again, we I wanted to find out the importance of this engagement. Of course, I understand the importance of engaging with communities, but I want the viewers and the listeners to understand that importance. And you know, for everybody sitting here, the reason you're here is because you're interested in nature. You have this inherent interest in nature, a passion for conservation. Perhaps you're even involved in conservation yourselves. And so, for you to try and understand why we need to protect something is very easy to do. But for some people who perhaps don't even know of a single bird's existence, it can be difficult. And so tying that into why they need to protect a bird by showing economic value, whether it's in terms of protecting an area, protecting or promoting these homelands, looking after habitat that these specific birds are in, promoting sustainable ecotourism for an area such as Ntsikeni and Dalu and his work. It all forms part of bringing that connection between a community and saving a bird, or saving a species, or various species. And if we don't do it, we can present all the science in the world, and we're just not going to save the bird. It really is as simple as that.
Very true, John. Perhaps if I could also just maybe come in and answering some of the questions I see are still in the Q&A and might not get enough time to type out an answer. You are very right in what you're saying. You are very correct. And I want to also just emphasize that it is possible. It is definitely a mountain that is worth climbing. And we, as conservationists and as people, we have to challenge ourselves that, you know, if we are truly, we want to implement ethical, contemporary, participatory and involving, you know, wholesome conservation, we need to find a way to work with people and communities. I just wanted to answer, I know Ntuthuko will come in on the number of farmers we have involved in the Herding4Health, the households and the beneficiaries, because we've mapped all of that out, and the area that is under the Herding4Health. So that is the area that is managed in a sustainable way. I did want to also just give some facts on the recent auction that was done. I think you must understand that in this work that we're doing, it's a lot of mind shifting that we are trying to impart or to bring the community to the table. For a longest time in our history, I'll speak for Zulu people because I'm Zulu. Cattle has always been seen or viewed as something that represents wealth, that represents status, and that represents authority and power in some respects. But for us to come in and say, well, hang on, through this Herding4Health program, you could also have economic opportunities and business opportunities through, the cattle, because, most of the communities are very reluctant in selling cattle because you want to have 300 herds of cattle, you want to have 150. That's the status that everybody's trying to fight for. Even for them to get them to sell the cattle is a huge leap, which I think we were very successful. Ntuthuko was very successful in doing in the first auction that took place with the mobile auction that was brought to the community. I think 71 cattle were put up for sale. 52 or 57 cattle eventually got sold, and this amounted to just a little over 500,000 that was injected back into the community, instantly catalyzing the rural economy within the community space. So, and this money is gone to all the individuals who sold their cattle. And so as a test, for a first one, now that people are understanding, I think the highest cattle must have sold for something like 18,000. And to be able to get that amount of money for your cattle when you didn't pay any cost in transporting it, and you didn't pay any cost in treating and all of that, it's huge value, and it's a huge mind shift for communities to now think, oh, well, hang on, then maybe we don't all need to go to Johannesburg or Durban to look for jobs. There's 18 jobs that were instantly created in the community, and hopefully as the project goes, the business grows, there'll be more opportunities for other jobs as well.
100%. And Ntuthuko, I don't want to, I'm unsure if you want to maybe just let us know how many farmers were involved in this process. That ties in with one of the questions that Nandi's just answered now.
Yes, thank you, John. At the moment, we are sitting at more than 250 livestock farmers. That include the small stocks such as goats, sheep, and also cattle. So we're sitting at more than 150 farmers with a possibility of expansion to other villages. So we currently engaging with probably with different chief, different villages under different chief. And also we're looking at more than 32 villages to be under the Herding4Health project. So we're sitting on that at the moment, and the numbers are still growing. And also to mention that the rangeland restoration to the community, they look the rangeland restoration as a source of fodder for their livestock, not realizing the role they play within the climate change sector. So for them, it's all about restoring rangeland. So what I preach to them most is restore, save some winter fodders. So while they're doing that, they also improve the rangeland for these birds to come back. There's also some of we believe as a Zulu person, we also believe in traditional medicine. So one of the farmers and one of the community members, who is a traditional healer, has uploaded the work of Herding4Health project in terms of seeing different plants, the plant diversity within the community, in terms of a source of his herbs. So it's a very, very interesting job, which I'm so happy to be part of. Thank you so much.
And you're making an incredible difference, Ntuthuko. And again, I mean, whilst you and Nandi have been answering these questions, the applause and comments have just been flooding in. In the interest of time, I appreciate that some people might want to dial off. I know we can talk about this for many, many hours. In fact, I wish we could invite all 200 odd viewers this evening to our annual staff get together in 2 weeks so that we could involve you in a carousel session and share with you all the amazing work EPP is doing. But and to talk about how can people get involved? If somebody's dialed in this evening and they want to support the project, the work that you're doing, how can people get involved? What can they do?
I can answer that, John. For how can you get involved? Please go visit Ntsikeni. That's number one. Go and take over 300 species that you will find, you're most likely to find in one place. High endemism. bring extra pair of lungs if you want to see the Drakensberg rock jumper. It's a it's a serious hike, but you will definitely see it. So visit the nature reserve. Like I said, because Ntsikeni is a unique situation where the money that you spend if you sleep at the lodge goes directly to the community. You actually book with the community person, and that money goes into their account. And then obviously, if you hire Dalu, then that's contributing, that's giving back to conservation, because that helps us maintain the salary for Dalu so that we can have him there full time. I didn't mention that Dalu also supports some of the landscape conservation work, Dr. Kyle Lloyd and Marlies Mula, in some of the monitoring, the ongoing monitoring that they're doing over there. So that's supporting conservation directly. While you enjoy some birds, and also while you're there, practice responsible and ethical tourism. There are birding rules for Ntsikeni because it's such a sensitive area. So just to please respect that, no callbacks and trampling in the wetland and all of that. So just to be cognizant of that. And so visiting these areas, yes, would help us a lot. But of course, if you want to make a donation, you're more than welcome to go to the website where you can make a donation to Ntuthuko's project. It will go a long way in supporting the conservation, in supporting the conservation message, and just also building the relationship that we have with the community.
Excellent. So you heard it, everybody. That's how easy it is to support everything. I think maybe one more question. And I see it's just come up here. Faisal Mamdu has asked us, is there danger that the success of cattle economy or the growth of the cattle economy in an area might lead to larger scale cattle farming, which might then, add additional pressure on grazing in an area? Is there any concerns with regards to that, Nandi?
No, I'm saying no because in the models that we looked at, sorry, I'm just running to my charger. That's why my camera is off. I'm saying no because in the models that we looked at, so remember, the Herding4Health is not a new project. It's tried and tested. It's been implemented mostly in Eastern Cape, Matatiele, Cedarville, Umzimvubu catchment, and there are also implementations outside of South Africa. So we have not seen that in the areas close to us, Cedarville and Matatiele and Umzimvubu. What we do see is that over time, the community are quite eager to sell off the cattle because of the high returns that they're getting from the mobile auctions. And I mean, we're just speaking about the cattle, but there's the sheep shearing as well, and goats as well. So all livestock are involved besides chickens. And this helps us because as a start, if you've driven around communities, you'll know that it's overstocked and overgrazed, but it's not a prudent way of engaging with communities to say in the first meeting, you guys need to reduce all your cattle. There's too much cattle and not enough rangeland, but rather to build a relationship of trust and understanding so that, there's an incentivized way to destock the rangeland. And so what we've seen in some of the experiences is the mobile auction will actually come twice in a year, whereas, we've just had it once. Now it will come twice in a year. In some areas I think it was Matatiele, they actually decided that they want to get rid of all the livestock they had because it was of very poor genetic quality. And one of the benefits through this program is through Meat Naturally, we can access like bulls to come cover some of the cows to improve genetic stock. And so we've seen those things come happen where they said, no, actually, we want to get more from the mobile auctions and we need better genetic composition. But we've not seen where they've overstocked. I hope that answers the question.
I think it does. Thanks, Nandi. I think if there's any more questions, everybody, that perhaps have gone unanswered, like I said, in the interest of time, we may have to unfortunately end tonight's episode. But I'll make sure that Nandi and Ntuthuko get those questions and that you'll then hopefully be able to get an answer from them. But certainly from my side, Nandi, Ntuthuko, it's a pleasure to have had you here this evening as guests on Conservation Conversations. It's even more of an honor to be part of the Empowering People program and to call both you and Ntuthuko colleagues and colleagues on a program level specifically. I think everybody, what makes the Empowering People program and the work that all three of us do is that we're dealing not only with conservation, but we're also dealing with impacting people's lives. And I think it's one of the very few spaces in the world of conservation where we are able to do this on a daily basis. And so it's almost this dual responsibility to the three of us, and it just makes it that much more rewarding. But yes, thank you, Ntuthuko. Thank you, Nandi. And I'm sure that many people are going to get into contact with you to hear more and to hopefully support you guys and Ntuthuko, you and your amazing work specifically. All right, everybody. I look forward to hopefully seeing you all on the next episode of Conservation Conversations. Until then, we'll end off with our amazing BirdLife South Africa promotional video. We wish you a wonderful rest of the evening, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Cheers for now.
Cheers. Thank you.
Birds, they're all around us.
They connect us.
Regardless of language.
Across cultures.
Beyond borders.
Despite our differences, they unite us.
They inspire us and bring us joy.
Birds are indicators of the health of our environment.
Our grasslands, fragile wetlands,
Forests.
And our majestic oceans.
They tell us when something is wrong.
The canary in the coal mine.
What is good for birds is good for people.
Good for communities, for business, for the future.
but many of them need our help.
For over 100 years, we have been studying and conserving birds.
We've been watching them
and watching over them.
And maybe a little obsessed with them.
Which is why we are doing everything we can
to ensure they survive and thrive,
so that our children and their children
can also experience the wonder of birds.
We are educating the next generation,
creating jobs,
empowering communities,
protecting habitats,
building a sustainable future,
raising awareness,
preventing extinction,
creating hope.
We are BirdLife South Africa. We are giving conservation wings.